Chapter 9.
Ace, Deuce, Grim, and Yuya made their way over to the Hall of Mirrors. They didn't encounter anyone other than a ghost out and about, likely because it was still early. The Hall of Mirrors was a small building. Yuya had seen it from the top of the stairs 2 days before. Inside, 7 mirrors faced one another in a circle. The group slipped through one decorated with cards and roses. "Oh, wow!" Grim cried out as the scene around them changed. Even Yuya found himself murmuring, "This is amazing." The scene before their eyes was astonishingly beautiful. He inhaled deeply the fresh, verdant fragrance of trees, the scent settling at the bottom of his lungs. He could also catch the faintest hint of sweetness in the smell and belatedly realized that it was the fragrance of roses blooming wildly around them. "That there's Hotzelbuel's famed rose maze," Ace pointed out at the row of beautifully trimmed hedges, which folded in on themselves and stretched so far Yuya couldn't see where they ended. "I haven't gotten into it yet myself. As soon as we started school, the upperclassmen told us we shouldn't go in until we've learned basic flight. They said we'd be in real trouble if we got lost, so I guess it's probably pretty huge." The hedges reached up to Yuya's shoulder and were neatly shaped into straight lines with not a twig out of place. The morning dew on the rich, lustrous green leaves shone and sparkled, dazzling the eye. Crisp, clear sunlight poured down from above, and even the color of the sky seemed different from that of the one above Ramshackle Dorm. "Dang, this place is swank," Grim said. "This is nothing like our dumpster of a dorm." "It's almost absurd to even compare them," Yuya responded. He could see a large building up ahead on the brick path, with red walls and a castle-like exterior. It seemed different, yet again, from the main school building. So, that was the dorm? Large, sturdy bushes bearing bright red roses in bloom lined both sides of the path. Yuya looked closely and noticed that each and every one of the bushes was pruned into the shape of a heart. "Oh, yeah, I'm getting my paint on," came a voice from inside the garden. "They all gotta be red, or it's off with my head." Curious, Yuya stopped abruptly. He had heard this line somewhere before, but couldn't remember its origin. As he continued pondering the words, the owner of the voice appeared and caught sight of him. "Huh? Hold the phone," a boy with orange hair said, peering at Yuya. Their eyes met, and the boy's were a green similar to the leaves of the roses surrounding them. "Ah, I knew it," the boy said, looking extremely pleased with himself, his eyes suddenly sparkling. "Mr. No Magic from Orientation." "Hi," Yuya stammered. "Good morning." The boy walked over to the group, a smile on his face as he pinned Ace with a look. "And you're the first year who totes destroyed the billion termark chandelier. Plus, from the look of that collar around your neck, I'd say you're also the brave soul who ate Riddle's tart last night, huh?" "I seriously could do without the list of shame." Ace's shoulders slumped, but the other boy appeared to pay this no mind as he clapped a hand on Deuce's shoulder. "Lucky me," he laughed. "You guys are the hot topic on campus, and here you are banging my door down first thing in the morning. Hey, let's get a selfie real quick for Magicam." Sure." Yuya stared baffled. "But who are you?" "Oh, Cater Diamond. I'm a third year here at Hartzlebuel. You can call me Cater, or KK if you're cray-cray." The words tumbled out of Cater, a boy with kind, slightly downturned eyes, and a grown-up air. The top part of his orange hair was pulled back, and the tendrils of hair framing the sides of his face reinforced the gentle impression he made. Like Deuce and Ace, he had a playing card suit painted on his right cheek, a diamond. He turned the front camera on his phone toward him, crouched down, and brought his face so close to Yuya that his diamond mark almost touched his cheek. Cater was clearly not shy or afraid of getting up close and personal. The unfamiliar touch of someone his own age made Yuya jump a little. "Cheese!" Kater called, and Yuya heard the click of the photo being taken. I'll tag you on Magicam. Give me your names. Yuya assumed Magicam was some kind of social media app. Ace and Deuce introduced themselves, followed by Yuya and Grim. Acey and Deucey. And then Yui and Grimmy, huh? Okay, posted. Kater tucked his phone into his pocket and smiled warmly. The canines peeking out from behind his upper lip gave his face a friendly feel. So, listen, you kids came at the perfect moment, huh? It's like destiny or something. You want to help me paint some roses? Yuya wasn't the only one cocking his head to one side in confusion. Paint some roses? Yep. Kater nodded and pointed back at one of the heart-shaped bushes, which bore red roses, like all the others. Hmm? Deuce looked at it and frowned. Hey, check out the top. It's kind of weird. Yuya looked up and saw white roses blooming on the red rose bush for some reason. Wait. He looked more closely and saw the top half of the petals were red, while the bottom half were white. It wasn't actually a red rose bush. By paint. You can't seriously mean. He stared at Kater in amazement. Is this a white rose tree? Ace was also surprised. You're painting the flowers red? Exactly. Kater bobbed his head up and down and then frowned in frustration. I've had my head tilted back to the sky since I woke up, and man, my neck is so sore. But heads are gonna roll if these don't get painted before the party tomorrow, he shrugged. Why bother painting them? Yuya asked, and Kater grinned like it was the most natural thing in the world. Party day roses just have to be red. They're so much more photogenic. Or something. Photogenic? Deuce looked like it wasn't quite clicking for him. I don't get it. You're deliberately changing the color of the roses with magic? That is next level perfectionism. You bet it is, Kater winked. But the thing is, I also have to get things ready for the croquet tournament. And that means coloring all the flamingos. I am busy as a little beaver here. I'd seriously be so happy to get you guys on board. You're coloring flamingos now? Grim stared at Kater. Isn't anything the right color around here? It's gotta be done 100%, Kater told him. I mean, tomorrow's our dorm's traditional unbirthday party, after all. Unbirthday party? Yuya looked at Ace and Deuce, but they both shrugged and cocked their heads to one side. No clue, Ace said. Oh, what? Kater threw his head back in surprise. You kids haven't heard the good word? The unbirthday party's a formal high tea party, a tradition passed down through the generations at Hartsville. We pick a day that's not anyone's birthday and hold it whenever the mood strikes the house warden. That's a thing? Did you know about this? Ace whispered to Deuce. Nope. I was already getting this vibe, but I'm feeling pretty sure now that we got ourselves into a very weird dorm. Deuce whispered back. Kater patted them on their backs. At any rate, I need those roses to be red like a yesterday. Deucey, Grimmy, I'll show you how to do it with magic. You just follow my lead. Kater turned to Yuya. Yui, AC, since you kids can't use magic, you better stick to paint, 'kay? Ugh. Ace reluctantly accepted the can of paint from Kater, no doubt sensing the impossibility of saying no to such a persistent request from an upperclassman. Yuya also took a can and a brush and started painting the roses on one side of the path. Meanwhile, Kater used magic to change the color of one rose after another. He pointed his magical pen at a white rose, and particles of light enveloped it and then popped away like popcorn, leaving the rose red. He hummed all the while, so Yuya assumed the spell was a pretty simple one for him. It was not easy for Deuce and Grim. When they tried to cast the spell, Sometimes nothing happened, and other times the flower changed to a color other than red. It was an uphill struggle.
Meow! It turned pink!
Grim exclaimed. Ugh! I got green here, Deuce groaned. And not pink, not green, not aquamarine. Cater waved a disapproving finger at them. It's rose red or nothing. Ace sulked as he ran his brush across the flower petals, grumbling. This is so annoying. If I could use magic, I'd crush Deuce at this. Dunno about that, Deuce smirked. Talk is cheap, pal. Huh? Ace glared at him. What you say? Yeah, simmer down, you guys. Cater looked at Yuya quietly, painting the roses. Yui, you're my big guns here, thanks. Any time, Yuya said simply and looked at Deuce's and Grim's failed roses. A rainbow of colors dotted the white petals, leaving them in a curious state. Using magic's pretty tough, huh? Mm-hmm, Cater nodded. That's how it is with the noobs, though. They'll be totes okay if they work on their imagination. Imagination? Yuya frowned. Yep. You gotta think about the nitty gritty, you know? Like, what kind of magic are you using? What does it do? And the most important question of all, what do you want to happen? Creating a real, vivid picture of all that stuff in your head makes your magic more accurate. Or, if you look at it the other way, you're never going to get magic to do its thing for you if you can't really picture it in your head. Oh, I get it, Yuya nodded, satisfied. You couldn't cast a spell without a specific image in your mind. That was probably why Deuce hadn't been able to make his magic work in the enchanted mine. He'd been too panicked to focus on that mental image. Well, there are all kinds of other restrictions, too, Cater said cryptically, then twirled his magic pen and tucked it away into his pocket as they got back to work. Before Yuya knew it, all the roses as far as the eye could see were red. Ace and Deuce had decided that rose painting was a new way for them to compete, and the work had progressed quickly after that. Good job, gang! Cater gave them air high fives. You totally saved KK's bacon.
Ugh, I'm beat.
Grim groaned.
All that standing on my tippy toes, my legs are killing me.
Me too. With all that looking up at the roses, my neck's half broken. Ace hung his head, pushing down the large collar. This is seriously the worst. By the way, Cater clapped his hands to punctuate each word. AC, does the fact that you came straight here instead of going to class mean you're looking for Riddle? Oh? Ace met Yuya's eyes and pursed his lips as he nodded and admitted, I was the one who ate his tot. So, like, maybe that was my bad? Sorta like maybe I should say sorry or something? Look at you, getting right to it, Cater cried gleefully. Did you bring an apology tart? An apology tart? Ace's eyes widened at the unexpected words. No. I came here first thing. I got nothing. What? Cater lamented, theatrically throwing his hands up into the air. Oh, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Total conflict with the Queen of Hearts Rule 53. Stolen items must be replaced. Huh? Ace gaped at him. Rule what? Sorry, Cater shrugged apologetically. If you're not in compliance, I can't let you in. Huh? After we helped you in everything? Ace yelled. Them's the bricks, kid. All dorm residents must obey the rules. If I let you slide, it'll be off with my head next. As if. Ace reached out to grab him, but Cater nimbly danced away. Ace, Yuya called out, give it up. Deuce caught hold of the hem of Ace's uniform to stop him. You can't go flying off the handle again today, and not after yesterday. Setting fire to one of the Great Seven statues, destroying a billion Termark chandelier. If he followed these accomplishments up with an attack on an upperclassman before the furor had even died down, the expulsion he had just narrowly avoided might be enacted for real this time. Yuya and Deuce explained the situation to him, and Ace gritted his teeth in frustration. Do make sure you bring that tart next time, okay? We'll welcome you with open arms. Cater waved and disappeared into the dorm while Ace stamped his feet helplessly. Ugh! He knew from the second he saw me that I was totally thoughtless. He just wanted to make us paint his stupid roses. Gotta keep my guard up around that guy.
Hang on a sec. Why was I even painted roses anyway?
Grim said with a dawning awareness.
All I got for it was exhaustion. Ace, apologize right this second. Shut your trap.
Ace snarled. Don't go using that word with me now. Yuya ignored their bickering and asked Deuce what time it was. The other boy looked at his phone and gasped. Cripes, he said. Class is starting in like 2 minutes. We've got to get going.
Yeah, we better hustle.
Yuya agreed.
It'll look bad if we're late.
For real? That's it? For real? That's it? I'm going to class with this cola. Ace sighed at length while the others dragged him away, leaving Hartlepool behind.
Food! Food! Food!
Grim delightedly held up a tray laden with lunch. They'd managed to get through the completely incomprehensible history of magic class, and it was finally time to eat. But Yuya's mind was still fixed on what had happened in class. Their instructor, Mosius Train, had singled Yuya out at the end of the class, telling him to stay behind. Train was a distinguished middle-aged man with bits of white starting to show in his ash-gray hair. He carried around a cat named Lucius that looked like someone had smushed its face in, and he gently petted his beloved cat during class occasionally, as though seeking comment from it. When he spoke briskly about history, he had seemed quite strict, but his voice, as he spoke to Yuya then, was unexpectedly gentle. The head mage told me about your situation. I'm sure you must be having trouble following my class, as you are beginning with zero knowledge. Read this. Train handed him a book that was a general survey of the history of this world. Like Cruel and Vargas the day before, he was dealing with the non-magical Yuya just as another student, rather than treating him as something special. Yuya appreciated this and thought all the teachers there were good people. His grades back home had never been stellar, but they hadn't been bad either. For instance, the book he'd been given might have been a thick, weighty tome, but if he put his mind to it, he could probably catch up more or less. He began to see a light at the end of this dismal tunnel, but he still felt a cloud of gloom hanging over him. The more pressing issue at the moment was the lunchtime that loomed before him. He recalled the previous day and the uncomfortable hour when the other students had carefully kept their distance. The almost painfully sharp glances they had shot him, the obvious whispers. If Deuce hadn't come along, he was sure he would have felt crushed under their gazes and fled the cafeteria. Would he have endured that same awkwardness again today? The chicken sauté before him looked delicious, but his stomach hurt for a reason other than hunger.
Another delish lunch spread,
Grim said as he plopped himself down at the middle of the large table, without paying the least bit of attention to the world around them. The students seated nearby quickly retreated like sparrows that had a rock thrown into their flock. Yuya nervously sat beside him. Must be nice to be you, Grim. You don't seem to care about what other people think.
Other people?
A daring smile rose on his face, and Grim deftly weighed a fork in between his paws.
Worrying about that stuff's not going to fill my belly. This chicken in front of me is way more crucial. Time to eat.
He dove into his lunch with a look of utter contentment, chewing with his mouth open and scattering sauce everywhere. Oh, come on. Yuya wiped the table with a napkin and accidentally met the eyes of a group seated at a table farther ahead. Their faces twisted up into sneers, and he immediately hung his head. He could hear giggles and whispered laughter mocking him. I heard that Normie already got called into Train's office, one student scoffed. For real? I guess there really is no way for a loser who can't use magic to actually be a student here, huh? Another smirked. He's ruining everything. I mean, as students of Night Raven College, we're getting lumped in with a guy like that. It's embarrassing. The cold, pointed ill will around him shot through Yuya mercilessly, like barbs. However small each individual needle might have been, they rained down on him endlessly, and it hurt, scarring him. He couldn't lift his face. He lived his whole life doing his best to avoid fights and incurring anyone's hatred. How could he possibly have known how to handle having the entire student body ridicule him? Should he get mad at them? Should he just ignore it as stupid and pointless? The whole situation left him paralyzed. Blood drained from his limbs, leaving them numb, and his ears grew hot, as if they were on fire. Just when he thought he couldn't take it anymore, someone sat down in front of him, as if to block judgmental voices and hard eyes. He lifted his face, wondering if Deuce had come to join him again, and vivid terracotta hair leapt into his field of view. Ace. What? He said, perhaps sensing something in Yuya's gaze, but he didn't bother to wait for his reply, instead beginning to chatter. That's one pathetic look you got on your face, like, you don't actually think I'm here to save you from those guys, right? Well, let me kick that idea out of your head. I just sat here 'cause the seat was empty. Don't go getting all googly-eyed on me. I was just walking by a no big. He picked up his spoon. But, man, whispering behind someone's back without looking at him straight in the face is pretty sad. For real, if you don't like a guy, come right out and make fun of him to his face. Ace very deliberately looked around, and the chatter stopped, leaving silence in its wake. The only sounds that could be heard were sipping from his spoon and Grim chewing the chicken.
Woohoo! This is so good!
Grim had been shoveling food into his mouth in a trance, and now he swallowed loudly and patted his stomach.
That pasta there looks real tasty, too.
Paws off, Weasel! Ace batted his paw away. You hurry up and eat. Not my fault if Grim steals your lunch. Oh, there you are. Deuce wove his way through the crowd and came to stand immediately in front of them. This place is jammed again today, huh? I couldn't decide between the carbonara or the chicken. Lost a lot of time there. He sat down next to Ace in a natural motion. Hey, whoa! Ace glared up at him. Now I have to look at your ugly mug when I'm eating too? I'm not happy about it either, Deuce told him. Actually, could you maybe just stay away from us? That collar sticks out. People are going to think we're rule breakers too. Oh, shut it! And anyway, the second you smash that chandelier, a rule breaker too. The one who says, loser is the loser. Ace stuck out his tongue. Ugh. Deuce reeled slightly. No, it's not too late. I'll show you. I'm going to turn myself into a magnificent honor student. Ace and Deuce carried on with their usual squabbling, growing louder and causing a bigger ruckus than when they had been whispering earlier. For once, though, Yuya didn't mind it in the least. Thanks, Ace, Deuce, he said with a shy smile. What for? Ace stared at him blankly. You're a weirdo. How come you said Ace first? Deuce protested. I'm first. Yuya could still feel the sneers and stares. In fact, they seemed to grow all the worse with the assemblage of the team who had caused yesterday's chaos. But Yuya no longer felt that stabbing pain. Surprised at how easy it was to smile now, he thanked Ace and Deuce again. While the four of them proceeded with lunch, someone grabbed the chair next to Ace and asked, Mind if I sit here? Oh no, Yuya shook his head. Go ahead. This newcomer must have been pretty brave. He had short, ivy-green hair and black-framed glasses. A club symbol was painted on his left cheek. That mark! Yuya stared. Ace had explained to him during a break that Hartsville students were required to draw one of the card suits on their faces. They were given a suit by the house warden after orientation. So, did that mean this boy was in the same dorm as Ace and Deuce? Before he could ask, a familiar face popped up from behind the boy in the glasses. You guys stick out like sore thumbs, the orange-haired boy said merrily. Saved us the trouble of looking for you. Ah, you! Ace jolted back in his chair. Good job this morning, AC, and the rest of you. Cater waved a fluttering hand. You look good, real hot. Ace turned his face away with a sniff and twirled his fork in his spaghetti, looking bored. Real hot? Whatever. You used us and then chased us away. And now, Cater smiled as he sat down. Don't be in such a snit. I mean, old KK here didn't want to chase you cutie pies away. Not really, you know? But like the scary vice house warden here, he tells me to jump, I gotta say, how high? Hey, watch your mouth. The boy in the glasses smiled awkwardly while Cater put on a transparent show of weeping. Vice house warden? Yuya asked Ace and Deuce, but they showed no signs of surprise, only nodding at the question. Mm-hmm. Nice to meet you. I'm Trey Clover. The boy in glasses smiled at him. A third year, like Cater. I'm Hartlebule's vice house warden. Sorry if our ace caused you all that trouble yesterday. His voice was gentle. Had he sought Yuya out just to make this apology? When Yuya shrank back, he laughed and said playfully, well, I also wanted to check out the guys from that dump of I mean, the rustic dorm. Don't let your guard down, you. Ace waggled his spoon in front of him. The house warden's the only one picking the vice house warden after all. You hear me? Hey, don't be rude to Clover, Deuce said, jabbing him, but Ace was clearly holding firm in his grudge over the events of that morning. And anyway, you're late to the party, Trey, Ace sniffed. I got chased out of Hotsabule and you didn't come running after me then. Trey lowered his eyebrows and smiled.
Hey, so,
Grim cut in, looking up at Trey.
what even is a house warden?
Our house warden, Trey started. You all know him, right? Riddle Rosenhartz. Grim and Ace both pulled sour faces. I guess you could say the vice house warden's like his assistant, although Riddle doesn't actually need an assistant. The fact that he had a title likely meant that Trey was a peacemaker among the students. You felt like he understood why Deuce had looked nervous. The Hartlebuel house warden, the vice house warden, Yuya had a sudden realization and timidly said, That reminds me. What other dorms are there besides Hartlebuel? No way! Just as he'd feared, Ace gaped at him. You don't even know that? So sorry. He hung his head. It's fine. All good. Cater winked at him. You're like the White Rabbit. You don't know a single thing, and it's totes adorbs. KK and Trail tell you everything you need to know. So, you know those statues of the Great Seven on Main Street, yeah? Our school has about 7 dorms in honor of them. There's Hartlebuel, our dorm. Cater chanted as he used a finger to write on the table with magic. Hartlebuel dorm, modeled after the strictness of the Queen of Hearts. Savannah Claw dorm, based on the persistent spirit of the King of Beasts. Octavanel dorm, based on the benevolent heart of the Sea Witch. Scarabia dorm, based on the mindful personality of the Sorcerer of the Sands. Pomphiora dorm, based on the tenacity of the fairest queen. Ignahide dorm, based on the diligence of the king of the underworld. Diasomnia dorm, based on the noble spirit of the Thorn Fairy. That's all 7 of them. If you saw the dark mirror at orientation, yeah, that thing looks at the essence of a new student's soul and decides which dorm is best for them. Cater blew a puff of air at the glittering letters on the table. The words scattered and disappeared like a pile of sand. Oh, I wasn't... Yuya started.
All those names are way too long,
Grim shouted, almost as if speaking for Yuya, and ran a paw over his ears.
How's anyone supposed to remember 'em?
Well, you get the idea, Cater laughed. Want to or not, you'll learn them soon enough. Yuya and Grim looked anxious, and Trey offered them a reassuring smile. It's okay. It's pretty easy to figure out who's in which dorm. They have different colored armbands and mage stones on their magical pens. We wear the black and red of the Queen of Hearts dress, red and black armbands, and crimson mage stones. Even if you can't tell by the colors or whatever, soon enough you'll get who's who just from meeting them, Cater said. Each of the dorms has a totally different vibe. Right, Trey nodded. You already know about our Hartsville dorm. Nope, no idea, Ace spat. I mean, what even is it? Those weird rules, the Queen of Hearts, or whatever, on birthday parties, painting roses makes zero sense to me. I can't believe you, Deuce hissed. How can you be so rude to the upperclassmen? Okay then. Ace gave him a hard look. Are you saying that you're 100% on board with that weird task, Deuce? That's. I mean. Deuce looked troubled and glanced up at Trey like he was having trouble actually saying the words. Cater watched this with amusement. You think it's weird? Deuce sent his eyes racing around the room. It's like. That face! You're a total truth teller, Deucey. I love it. Come on, don't go teasing the new kids too much, Trey said reprovingly and cleared his throat. Heartslipule is an homage to the spirit of the Queen of Hearts. By tradition, our students live according to the rules she created. And she has 110 rules in all, Cater sang. 810? Ace and Deuce cried in unison, looking at each other. And we follow them? Can I even remember them all? Deuce said.
Your dorm's pretty rigid.
Grim pointed at them. Now that Grim had been officially accepted as a student, he'd broken free of his longing for the other dorms. For the past day, he'd really connected with the ghost who had lived with them and had been growing.
My ramshackle dorm's the best.
Yuya was just glad he was accepting their shared life.
No rules in ramshackle dorm, plus we got free reign of the whole building,
he boasted.
When I get back there today, I'm going to clear the second floor and make my room shine.
Ace looked at him with jealous eyes. Ah, Hotsabule is super rough. Actually, the rules are basically just an old tradition. Like, if I had to say Hartlebule motto, it's more of a vibe, Cater said with a bittersweet smile. How strictly we follow that tradition depends on the house warden. Past wardens have been much, much more lax. Riddle, though? Trey shook his head. He doesn't mess around. He strictly enforces the Queen of Hearts rules. The real wild part about Ridley is how he gets all the dorm students to obey the super strict system, Cater noted. That doesn't make it okay for him to put this collar around my neck just for eating a slice of tart. It's not right, Ace said, and drank down his glass of water. If you're talking wild, it's wild how narrow-minded and controlling he is. So, I'm narrow-minded and controlling. Yep, emphatically, blowing right past strict and straight into tyranny. Ace! Yuya tried to stop him, but it was too late. Blah! Ace looked back and froze. House Warden. He leapt to his feet like someone had dumped a boiling water on him. Behind him, the House Warden of Hartslepule himself, Riddle, stood with arms crossed, tucking his fiery red hair behind his ear, and asked, And? Gray eyes blinked slowly under the fan of lush eyelashes. The rest of his face was made up of more delicate features, and if Yuya was pushed to describe him, he would admit that they were spherical and beautiful. The outrage that had colored Riddle's face the other day seemed like an impossibility, but as ever, his intensity bellied his slender frame. Hey, Riddle, Cater grinned. What's shakin', pal? You're looking adorbs as always. Riddle sniffed disdainfully. Cater, keep running that mouth and you'll lose it, along with the rest of your head. Sorry. Cater waved apologetic hands. My bad. Riddle turned his gaze to Yuya and Grim next. Oh ho, you two. Oh, hi, Yuya started, but only to be cut off by a dismissive wave of Riddle's hand. You and Grim, yes? I heard you've been accepted to our school. He shook his head ruefully. What could the head mage have possibly been thinking? Tolerating rule breakers such as yourselves? Incredible.
Blah!
Grim stuck his tongue out, and Yuya slapped both of his hands over his mouth. Quit it, he whispered so quietly that only Grim could hear. You want to end up like that again? They glanced at the collar around Ace's neck, and its wearer gave them a pained smile. So, listen, Ace said. House Walden, sir? What is it? Riddle said. Ace pursed his lips and rubbed his hands together. Any chance I could get you to remove this collar? Of course. I had intended to remove it for you. For real? Once you had taken an opportunity to reflect upon your crimes, at any rate. Riddle poked his collar around Ace's neck. But I have not detected so much as a hint of remorse in the foolishness I have heard you spout today. So I think I'll let that stay on for a while. What? Ace cried. But I've got classes! No need to worry, waved a dismissive hand. The first term for first years is more focused on magical theory than practice. They're all foundational classes, so your inability to use magic shouldn't be a problem at all. If you know anything of shame, however, you might be slightly bothered. But I suppose that is what we call reaping what you sow. But Ace's face fell. His head looked very heavy as he slumped in disappointment. Continuing to wear the collar would be rough for him both mentally and physically. But Riddle shook his head, clearly done with that conversation. Now, if you've finished your meal, you should quit gossiping and prepare for your next class. You know what would happen if you were to break the Queen of Hearts rule 271. One must leave the table within 15 minutes of completing one's lunch, don't you? Gah, and there we go with another weird rule, Ace muttered. What did you say? Riddle rebuked in a voice that could be heard at the farthest end of the cafeteria. Yes, House Walden. Ace and Deuce leapt to their feet and cried out together. Very well, then. Trey, you are the Vice House Warden, Riddle said. I trust you will keep an eye on the new student's manners. Yep, Trey nodded. I will be sure to do that. I'll be on my way, then. Riddle whirled around and turned his back to them. As per the Queen of Hearts Rule 339, the post-meal beverage is to be lemon tea with 2 sugar cubes. I must go to acquire sugar cubes from the shop. His loafers echoed against the floor as he left the cafeteria. Instantly, Yuya heard the sighs of relief from all around him. One student whispered, Ugh, that guy is really weird. I mean, following the Queen of Hearts rules even outside of the dorm? Ah, I was so freaked out. I accidentally broke the Queen of Hearts rule 186. Never eat a hamburger on a Tuesday. I don't know what I would have done if he had caught me. Another worried. I get that. I wish he wouldn't come here, so we could at least eat lunch in peace. The whispers around him were not favorable, and Yuya realized it wasn't just Ace as a new student who was unhappy with Riddle. Plenty of the others seemed to be just as frustrated.
People really hate that Riddle guy,
Grim said, not mincing his words, and Trey and Cater winced. But Riddle's for real a great mage, Cater said. With that signature spell of his, he's rock solid, pals. Not going to be knocked off his perch by us.
Signature spell?
Grim frowned.
What's that?
Just what the name says, Trey said. It's a particular spell unique to its user, although it's possible that more than one person can use the spell. But, well, it's rare for 2 people to have the same signature spell. His signature spell allows him to temporarily steal away the magic of another. You may have seen it in action, Cater asked wryly.
It's called...
Grim screwed up his face and shook his head vigorously back and forth.
Off with your head!
Ugh, man, the name alone is scary enough. Ace slumped down in his chair like he'd run out of steam and was just barely held up by the edge of his seat. Come on, I mean, off with your head? Simmer down already. Yeah, definitely goes with that holier-than-thou attitude, Ace snarled somewhat rudely, given that he was talking about an upperclassman. Trey and Cater weren't angry, though they merely smiled with slightly chastening looks. Yuya wondered if they weren't annoyed by this reckless new student, but from the way they talked, he sensed they were making excuses for Riddle. Maybe they were used to these kind of complaints. The way the house warden was there, Ace said, I don't stand a chance of getting back into the dorm unless I bring a tart, yeah? Queen of Hearts, help me out. Which rule was it again? Rule 53, Cater told him. Stolen items must be replaced. Riddle always looks forward to having the first slice of tart, Trey noted, and it's his right as house warden. If you take that away from him, well, you're not going to get him to forgive you until you replace not just the bit you ate, but the entire tart. True that, Cater nodded. I mean, we're not happy about it either, but the rules are absolute. You can't really believe that, Ace yelped. Nah. This is real talk here. Cater stared at Ace, surprisingly serious. Mm-hmm, Trey agreed. We would like to help you out somehow. But it's all talk. Ace scratched his cheek, still looking angry, but a little apologetic too. I don't even have the money to buy a whole tot. There's no way I can replace it anytime soon. You're golden. Cater snapped his fingers as if he'd been waiting for this very moment. I've got the perfect idea.